Man, oh man, oh man. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started here on this wonderful, winning, worthy of positive action Wednesday. I have my lovely, lovely guest in the house, Miss Ashling Cole. How are you?
Man, I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. This is going to be awesome. I just love you. So, this is going to be like two friends kicking it. Shout out to everybody that's on Facebook Live. Thanks for joining us. Oh, this is going to be fun. I'm super excited.
Oh, I'm like super duper, like really super excited. I've been waiting all week, so I couldn't wait for this to happen because I mean you're just such an inspiration
Oh,
to
wow. I appreciate that so
me
much.
and to many of my constituents.
Not the constituents.
You know what I'm
Come on,
saying?
constituents. I
Well,
love it.
Ash, let me just give some of the people who don't know about you. You actually grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and you have spent many, many years in the recording industry and recording and touring with the likes of Larry Graham, Sheila E., Jonathan Butler, my gosh, Dave Cox,
Yes.
and and the megastar Prince. My God, I mean it's you. I've heard your voice, so it's like to put a voice and a face together is just simply amazing and transforming. So why don't we get started here? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, fantastic. So, for those who are joining us for the first, second, or third time, welcome to Team World Builder Success Series, where we like to interview success stories and kind of get the know the person behind the fame and whatnot. So, let's start off with exactly where you were raised. What city did you grow up in? Do kind of tell us a little bit about that?
So the start of my life is already an interesting story. So as if my life is not interesting enough, the beginning of my life was very interesting. So I was born in Vancouver, Canada. My mom immediately took me to Ireland, which is where my grandparents were. So I spent some time, like the first year and a half of life, in Dublin, Ireland. And then my mother moved to San Francisco. She, in that year and a half after I was born, we can go into as many details as you want. I've got that hot, the I'm your flight attendant tonight. So
Come on, come on.
yes, exits in the front and in the back. Yes, so she met my stepfather in that year and a half, and he lived in San Francisco. He was a longshoreman in San Francisco, and so off we went to San Francisco, and that's where I went to all the way through high school, and was very musical from a very young age. I studied opera as a child.
Oh.
From the time I was 6 years old till I was 12, I was with the San Francisco Girls Chorus, and it
So
had.
you started singing at what age?
Well, my mom says I came out singing. So basically from the very beginning, and she was very musical. My mother was as well. My dad, not so much, but my mom was very musical, always was singing, always had incredible music playing on the record player. And so I was, it was just a musical family. And so that's just part of our communication was music.
Okay.
So when I was 6, I saw an article in the San Francisco Chronicle, and I said, this is what I want to do. And it was the San Francisco Girls Chorus. And so I auditioned, and I was the youngest person to be accepted into the school. And so I went and did that for 6 years, and then went on to musical theater, and just always had music, around me, in me, always doing music.
Okay. So did you learn to write music too, or was it m- mostly from the voice?
So when you study opera, like that was, I didn't necessarily learn how to write music, but I learned how to read music. So I became also an instrumentalist in middle school. I was first chair clarinet, and I won ribbons and trophies doing different things, playing clarinet. I also learned how to play saxophone and flute. And so that, that musical beginning of learning how to harmonize and be part of a choir and learn how to conduct the choir and the orchestra. Those were all very fundamental trainings that have stuck with me my whole career.
Okay. Okay. Did you have any, who were your inspiration in terms of musically growing up? Who were some of your favorites?
Well, growing up, I listened to, my mom would play Van Morrison. Of course, he's from Ireland. I grew up with different roots, bluegrass kind of music. Bruce Springsteen was a huge staple in our house. And then there was a whole blues side, like Bobby Blue Bland was always playing, and he ended up being a huge influence. I mean, if you listen to any of my music, there's kind of a blues gospel vein through all of it. And Bobby Blue Bland was one of my first influences. And then as I got a little into my adolescence, the very first voice that blew my mind was Whitney Houston.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so Whitney Houston. And then from there, Mariah Carey. I remember when Vision of Love came on the radio for the very first time. And I remember standing in, the living room, and I can't remember how old I was, but I was young. I was still a teenager. And I just was like totally blown away at her voice.
So when did you, what would you consider your big break in terms of performing or engaging in the community of people that we would call celebrities? So, I mean, what was your big break? How do you transition? I mean, yeah, how do you transition over? Or what would you say your first break was?
Well, my very first break that actually kind of set me up for, and this is going to sound really bizarre, but set me up for failure, which actually set me up for success in the long run. But when I was 17, I signed to Interscope Records under Jimmy Iovine and some very big hitters in LA.
Yeah.
And I was signed, and we got to work with the likes of Teddy Riley and some amazing producers. And then it was the era of girls groups. There were four of us, and they shelved us. So that's sort of music industry talk, where they'll put money into a group. This is back in the day. The record industry doesn't work this way anymore, but they'll sign an act and put all this money into it and produce a record, and then decide that they don't even want to release it. And they had so much money to burn that they could afford to put $500,000 into a project and then say, never mind. So that's what happened. We spent a year and a half doing that. And then I just was so disappointed. I had such thin skin. I was not ready for the record industry at all. So naive and so wide-eyed and just optimistic and vulnerable and all that. So I went back home to my parents' house, and I started working in corporate America. And then a couple of years after that, I started a family, got married. I had 2 beautiful children. And a little bit after that, I started doing little gigs here and there in the Bay Area. And there was a guitar player who I didn't know at the time had played with Larry Graham in Graham Central Station. And he put a band together, and he named it 3 Piece and a Biscuit. And so that's where, for those of you that know that my nickname is Biscuit, that's where that came from. So we started doing shows around, and then he introduced me to Larry Graham, and that was in 2009.
Wow.
And the rest is kind of history. So that was kind of my big break. I had no idea. I always had showed up just being my normal, genuine self, and I would treat every gig as if it was Carnegie Hall and that's how that happened. And so through Larry Graham that I met Prince and Sheila E. And I'm sure you want to talk more about that, but that opened a whole nother world.
Yeah. Okay, so did you meet Sheila E. first, or did you meet Prince first? Who came first?
That's interesting. I I'm pretty sure I met Sheila first, because Sheila, of course, the Escovedo family is from the Bay Area.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I knew of her, and we had also done different work within the schools, like different organizations that keep music in the schools. So I had seen her at different charity events, and she did a lot of work with different organizations. And so yeah, but I met Larry Graham and then Sheila, and then I met Prince.
Okay, okay. Well, Sheila and their family is from East County, so I know they do a lot of things in East Contra Costa County and the Bay Area, of course. But how was performing with them? I mean, they seem to be a very fun crowd. They keep things moving.
Absolutely. In fact, they were live this morning, I think at 8 a.m. They were on live salsa dancing in the living room. It was mom and pop, Escovedo, and Sheila was there, and they were salsa dancing to sort of lift the spirits
Right.
of people during this interesting time that we're going through right now.
Yeah.
But wow, what an experience. What an experience. I actually got to work with Sheila on a one-off show, and then she later asked me to join the band, and so I toured with her for a while, and that was great. So I was touring with Larry and her at the same time, as well as Prince, and so that was like
Okay.
amazing.
Okay. So how'd you get introduced to Prince and that entourage?
Well, Larry Graham and Prince were best friends, and like they had a brother relationship, father son, definitely very, very, very close. So with Larry Graham, Prince would just kind of show up places. I mean, remember the first time we were in New York City, and we were at BB King's, which unfortunately is now closed, very sadly that they closed that down a couple of years ago. But we were at BB King's, and I remember being in the dressing room, which is a really teeny tiny dressing room, and I'm in the mirror putting my makeup on, and somebody walked behind me, and I'm tall, I'm 5'10", and Prince was 5 nothing really, and so I couldn't really see who it was right behind me, and then I turned around, and there he was. and it was this moment, like, I don't know if you've ever heard Jamie Foxx talk about meeting Prince for the first time, but it's like you don't want to look at him, but you can't take your eyes off him. And he's like the most beautiful person you've ever seen in your life. And it's like, it's exactly how you would imagine it. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine. That's had to be such a amazing experience in many forms of fashion.
Absolutely. And the first time I met him, he shook my hands, and I didn't have to wash my hand as much as I do nowadays, but man, I was like, wow, he shook my hand. The next time I saw him, he gave me a hug, and from there it was just like it was a really amazing kinship, and he became one of my greatest mentors. He poured things into me that were just amazing. He was a fan of my voice, which was like, it was just so incredible to be working with him, and for him to, like, when in the funk world, right, in funk music, when things are good to you, get real ugly in the face, right? You'd be like, oh, that was so good. Ugh, that was good. Yeah. And he would get ugly in the face on me, and I was like, wow, it was just crazy. It was just crazy. It was really such a validation, such an affirmation for me. And coming out of that, I mean, I definitely consider myself as very humble, and and definitely want to stay that way, and stay genuine. But it gave me a confidence that really nobody can take away, because it was like, wow, there's nobody better. It's like Prince and Stevie and Whitney and Michael Jackson. And I'm like, wow, Prince just said my voice is amazing. And so y'all can't tell me nothing now. That's it.
Let me ask you, with such great mentors who elevated to such high game, what did you learn, maybe one or two things that you learned from Larry? What did you learn from Sheila? What did you learn from Prince? What were some things that you took out of that relationship?
I'll tell you on a very simple level, they all taught me that no matter where you go, you always want to look good. You always want to look good. And you know, T, I know you know what I'm talking about. Because you, my friend, I have never, my mom would say, ain't no flies on him. That's what my mom would say. But yeah, you know, you tip your hat, you know, you like, you got
They
your
kept
little
it tight.
swag.
Uh-huh.
Yes, yes. So always show up looking like you care, looking like where you are matters, looking like you know, that you put some effort into being there, that you didn't just roll out of bed and just like stumble into the place, you know, no matter where you go. And it's okay to be casual, like you don't have to wear stilettos all the time and lashes, but put some effort into it. And they really taught me about that. And Larry, very specifically, Larry Graham, really taught me to be personable with
Mm-hmm.
the fans,
Mm-hmm.
right? He
Mm-hmm.
would, I remember one time we came into the airport in Amsterdam and it was 1 a.m. or something like that. We're tired. We just done a gig where we had to get right on the plane. We're trying to wait for our baggage. And these two guys came through the airport. They had been waiting at the baggage claim for 6 hours or something like that. They knew that we were doing a show and they were waiting for him. And he sat with them and signed. They had a whole baggage cart full of merchandise. And he sat with them for over an hour and signed everything and had conversation. It was just so beautiful to watch. And so he just really taught me that you always want to be gracious. You always want to be kind. Always put your kind foot first. And that was just a really valuable lesson for me.
What has music taught you up to now? What have do you think music has evolved you? Well, I'm sure it has, but what has it taught you nowadays in your experience since you've been so many years in the game?
I think music, it's like a living, breathing thing. But I think you always have to just know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Just know who you are and know what your lane is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a lower, deep register voice, stay there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're breaking us a little bit. Can you hear me?
She had stopped.
Okay, you there.
Sorry, T. My connection is
Oh, that's okay. That's
weird.
okay. We'll
Okay.
figure it out. Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, imagine if Anita Baker had never released another album after her first album. I mean, you think about the songs, the catalog that she brought to us. If she had listened to the people that said she shouldn't be singing,
Right.
you know, and so I think that's also important. But also, don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. Know your lane, but don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. And for me now in my 40s, it took me it was a little transition for me with the hair now being gray after chemo. You know my story, T, but 2 years ago I was diagnosed with breast cancer and went through chemo and lost my hair, and the gray is what came back, and I just embraced it. But it also was me embracing being a 40-something-year-old singer, and
Yeah.
not the youngster on the scene like I've always been. So that really taught me to just embrace the process and just stay true to who you are. And I think I still, I still stay true to my style. I still have those blues roots in there, even though we're in a more digital age. I still gravitate towards live bands, live instrumentation. I'm always going to have a live band behind me. It's just who I am, and it's like I am committed to keeping that style going.
Yeah. Now you mentioned chemo. Obviously, some people know your story, but some people don't. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you found out and maybe how you kind of got through that, which is also a success story?
Yes.
Tell us about that. I mean, how did you find out? What was your situation?
Well, it was crazy because just 2 years before, my mother had passed from breast cancer. She was diagnosed 20 years prior,
Yeah.
and she made it past her 5-year mark, which, you know, they say once you've made it 5 years, you're cured. And 20 years later, it had metastasized, and it was just really, it was very sad. It was very sad, and yeah, something just totally out of my control. You know, I'm an only my mother's only child, and that was, it was very stressful. It was very, very stressful. And grief. I'm actually working on a book. I've been working on a book. I'm going to say it right now so that people hold me accountable, and that I will continue to write it. But it's called Deadly Grief, and it really talks about the effects of grief on the body, and emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. So anyway, so after that, 2 years after that, and then I was diagnosed with breast cancer, which was crazy. And my approach was very different. My mother was not a woman of faith like I am. And I just took it as this was my assignment. You know, that may seem very aloof and, you know, sort of out of touch with reality, but it wasn't for me. You know, the truth was I had breast cancer, or I was diagnosed with breast cancer, but the reality was that I was diagnosed with breast cancer, but the truth was that I was healed. I just had to go through the process.
Yeah.
And that was my mentality, and that's how I approached it. And so going through chemo was tough, but it was part of the process.
Yeah.
Going through surgery was really tough, but it was part of the process. And so every step of the way was just like, well, I'm already healed.
Yeah.
I just got to go through the process. And so that really helped me through that time.
That can be tough. And I've heard you say on many occasions that you use positive language talking to yourself and daily affirmations. How did you go about doing that? What inspired you to even do that? Did you hear of something that inspired you to do that, or were you always a person like that? What kind of got you on that journey and that road?
A lot of it is started with my faith, like I said. And so, you know, certain scriptures I would apply to my life. The power of life and death is in the tongue. That's one of, you know, a very powerful scripture. But also my pastor, Pastor Bo Jackson, he really, when I shared with him about my diagnosis, he was like, just start speaking healing over yourself right now, like right now. And I don't think that has to be, that's not a religious thing. That's really about observing when someone says, I feel awful, and watching then how awful they really do feel. Yeah. As opposed to someone that says, you know, today's a brand new day. I have an opportunity to take a deep breath. I'm in my gratitude. I'm grateful for my life, my health, my strength. You know, you wake up with a list of gratitude, and I guarantee your day is going to be different than if you wake up and pinpoint and list out all your aches and pains and your gripes and your disappointments and your sadness and your fear and your anxiety and your doubt. Yeah. You're going to have a totally different experience. So I fully, totally, truly believe that when you speak life over yourself, it changes the atmosphere in you, that then changes the atmosphere around you. And it's just, it's really physics. It's really simply a matter of energetically, you're going to speak positive, you're going to have a more positive experience. And likewise, if you speak negative, you're going to have a negative experience.
Yeah. So today, are you cancer-free now?
I'm cancer-free.
Come on, come on.
Come on with it.
Come on with it. Praise God. Praise
Absolutely.
God. Well, I know you have big, big things to do and to come. What are you working on nowadays? What's happening with you? What's some of the new things that you are into nowadays?
Well, today, you know, nowadays, having it be a very interesting time, you know, I'm not going to pretend that this is a broadcast, you know, at a different time, and we're live. We're in the midst of this coronavirus. It is weird, strange, different times. I love that ET, Eric Thomas, those of you that don't know who he is, #1 motivational speaker in the world. Eric Thomas the other day says, instead of saying we're in difficult times, say we're in different times. So
Yeah, come on.
just a shift in language, right? It's just different. This is a
Yeah.
different time. And I guess what's cool about it is we're all going through it. You know, we're all going through it. Nobody can really say that they're unique right now because everybody's feeling it. We're all in our homes in one way or the other. You know, we're all having to wash our hands to the point of like lizardom. You know, that's we're all having to experience that. So for right now, the book.
Yep.
I'm writing a song right now for our younger, for our boss kids.
Okay.
Which I'm super excited about. I started recording that today.
Okay.
Very excited about that. So Valari, if you're watching or listening, I've got a song for you, girl. It's coming.
Come on. Oh, looks like we may be buffering just a little bit. There you go. You're back.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. We're almost wrapping it up, so we're good.
So yeah, the book, a podcast. We were going to do the Dave Cos cruise this year. For all my Dave Cos cruisers out there, it has been postponed. So that's kind of a big project that I've been working on. And I do have a show coming out in July. I'm not sure how much I can say about it.
It may be a popular show. How about we just keep it there? It may be pretty popular. Maybe we'll bring you back once it is released and it has been made public and you're not under NDA in any form of
right. I will say this, just stay tuned.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ashling, it is so good to have you on our Success Series. You are an inspiration to me. I love talking to you whenever we can and chat and play catch up because we have similar boundaries and roads that always cross over. So thank you for all that you do. There is a reason why they call you the $1 Million Voice. And I bear witness. I bear witness to the $1 Million Voice.
I appreciate you so much.
Well, any closing words you want to leave for the people?
Yeah, let me leave you with this. I've got a feeling everything's gonna be all right. Oh, I've got a feeling everything's gonna be all right. Oh, I've got a feeling everything's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. It's already all right. It's all right.
Ashling, thank you. I so appreciate you. I will be in touch. Thank you for joining us tonight on our Success Series. Thank you guys who are watching us both locally, domestically, and globally. Take care now. Ashling, stay on for about 15 seconds.